Earth's soldier gave his last heat to freezing alien girls. What happened next shocked the galaxy. The biting wind of the ice moon, Christo 7, howled a dirge through the twisted metal of the crash site. Corporal Chris Jones knelt in the blue-tinged snow, the last survivor of his squad, his armored suit's power display blinking a fatal, pulsing red against the reflection in his visor. The cold was an invasive predator, no longer held back by failing technology. It had already seeped past the thermal regulators, sinking its teeth deep into his bones. A string of crimson alerts scrolled across his HUD, a final, indifferent report on his own demise. Thermal regulator efficiency, 4%. Critical failure imminent. Life support power, 3 minutes remaining. His biomonitors confirmed what his body already knew. His core temperature was plummeting. The numbness that started in his fingers and toes was now a heavy, creeping paralysis, a frozen tide rising within him. His helmet's combat log played back in fractured, ghostly echoes against his will. The shriek of Vex Syndicate disruptor fire tearing through their dropship's hull. The panicked, static, choked voice of his sergeant shouting orders that were cut short by a concussive blast. The final jarring impact. The silence that followed was heavier than any wreckage. They were all gone. Ambushed. Executed from orbit before they even had a chance to fight. It was then he saw it. A flicker of movement in the deep blue shadows of a different wreck, a vessel of smooth, crystalline design, shattered like a dropped diamond. 3 figures were huddled there, their slender, faceted bodies shuddering in violent, uncontrollable spasms. They were Prelorians, their forms like elegant sculptures of smoky quartz, now trembling on the verge of disintegration. Instinct made him raise his wrist-mounted scanner, its targeting laser a faint red line in the gloom. The data flowed across his visor, stark and unequivocal. Species, Prylorian. Biology, silicon-based. A critical note flashed below. Warning, no internal heat generation. The scanner highlighted microscopic cracks spreading across their bodies like ice on a winter pond. Catastrophic structural fractures detected. A grim, cynical calculus played out in his mind. His suit had, maybe 5 minutes before the cold shut his heart down for good. The data suggested the Prylorians had less than 2 before they simply fractured into a million glittering shards. His human body, a biological furnace churning out heat even in its final moments, was a miracle of evolution they didn't possess. He was a dying fire. They were freezing stone. The old words drilled into him at boot camp until they were part of his marrow, surfaced from the depths of his weariness. You don't leave anyone behind. The logic was insane. He was dead. Saving them was impossible. It was a pointless gesture against the absolute zero of space. But the creed wasn't about logic. It was about duty, an anchor in the chaos he thought the war had scoured from his soul. With a grunt of terminal decision, his numb, gloved fingers fumbled at his chest plate, prying open the engineering panel. He ignored the screaming proximity alarms as he keyed in the manual override for the thermal core. The sequence locked in, the system protesting with a high-pitched whine. A final massive burst of heat, a final massive cost. He rose, his joints protesting with the piercing ache of the cold, and stumbled toward the shivering aliens. With a surge of adrenaline-fueled strength, he tore the thick plasteel chest plate from his suit, exposing the thermal core beneath. It was already glowing a dull cherry red, venting waves of shimmering heat into the Arctic air, a miniature sun against the encroaching night. Chris fell to his knees before the Prylorians and wrapped his arms around them, pulling their frigid, trembling bodies against his own. He pressed the exposed, overloading core into the center of their huddle, shielding them with his back as he poured his suit's dying life into them. He could feel the violent, high-frequency vibrations of their bodies through his undersuit, a feeling like holding overstressed glass. Then slowly, miraculously, the shuddering began to lessen as the wave of life-giving heat washed over them. The thermal core went critical. There was no sound, only a silent, blossoming flare of white light that consumed his vision. His biomonitors flatlined in a single green line. His consciousness, the sum of all he was, dissolved into the white. His last perception wasn't of pain, or fear, or the cold, but of a faint resonant chiming sound from the aliens in his arms. A sound of stabilization, a sound of life. Then there was only darkness and silence. Couldn't help but wonder if I had truly done the right thing. Then darkness. A total crushing void, colder than Christo 7's unforgiving surface, colder than the deepest void between stars. It swallowed me whole, a final, unyielding embrace. There was no pain, no fear, just nothing. Then, not nothing, a spark, a distant, shimmering pinprick of light in the infinite black. It expanded, coalesced, not into vision, but into a disoriented perception. I wasn't seeing, not with eyes, but with something new, something that felt like a vast, interconnected web humming with silent energy. The biting cold that had been my last companion was gone, replaced by an overwhelming, pervasive chill, but deep within, a strange, resonant warmth pulsed. Steady and undeniable, it felt alien. Fragmented images flickered through this nascent awareness. Sharp, crystalline forms, like facets of a colossal gem catching an invisible light. Soft, chiming sounds vibrated, not in my ears, but directly within this new, non-physical core of my being. These weren't my memories, my senses. They were external, originating from somewhere beyond myself, yet intimately connected. Slowly, terrifyingly, I realized they were the Prilorians, or rather a Prilorian, whose perceptions were now bleeding into my own. I tried to move, to call out, to exert control over this phantom awareness, but it was like pushing against an invisible, cool barrier, a frustrating, futile effort. My existence was non-physical, a ghost of myself trapped in a state I couldn't comprehend, utterly helpless. Through this hazy shared perception, I felt a familiar consciousness slowly re-emerge, like a starship powering up after a blackout. This was Karina. Her crystalline form, I sensed, was stabilizing. The subtle, accelerated regeneration hummed beneath what I now understood to be her skin, a process triggered by the profound, unusual warmth emanating from within her. The warmth I had given, anomalous. That was the first thought feeling she projected, a mental designation for the distinct, intensely warm consciousness that now resided within her species' communal telepathic network. It shouldn't exist, not according to any Prilorian biological understanding. It was a foreign presence, a new note in their silent symphony. The fusion of senses sharpened. I wasn't just perceiving her external world. I was experiencing it through her. Her unique perception of reality unfolded. A universe of interconnected resonant frequencies, a dance of crystalline light that translated into form and substance. A world without the chaotic noise of sound, only the elegant interplay of vibrations. My own human mind, accustomed to linear thought and physical sensation, struggled. It was like trying to shout in a silent room, or paint with pure light. Coherent thoughts were a battle, dissolving into fragmented bursts against the alien telepathic medium. Yet instinct remained. Help. Alive. These rudimentary concepts, like raw, untamed energy, I pushed out. Karina recoiled, a ripple of alarm through her mental landscape, quickly followed by an intense, scientific curiosity. She tentatively sent out a focused telepathic probe, a cool, precise mental touch directed at the anomaly. My fragmented thoughts and memories hit her like chaotic bursts of heat and emotion, so unlike the ordered logic of her own kind. Through a series of crude mental exchanges, my raw, emotional impulses clashing with her sharp, analytical probes, Karina began to piece it together. The echo was Chris, the human who had sacrificed himself. His consciousness, impossibly, had been absorbed and preserved within their network. He was dead, yet profoundly, undeniably alive. And through her, I began to glean information about the Prilorians. Their silicon-based biology, so different from my own. Their absolute dependence on external heat, making Christo 7 a death sentence. Their collective, logic-driven culture, which viewed intense emotion as a chaotic, dangerous force. Driven by an insatiable scientific curiosity and a growing, unfamiliar sense of responsibility for this improbable human echo, Karina began to actively sift through my memories and knowledge. She absorbed images of Earth, green forests, blue oceans, bustling cities. She processed the complex, often illogical concept of human emotions, joy, sorrow, anger, and the bewildering alien concept of selfless sacrifice. It was a fire hose of information for her, and for me, a strange, intimate relearning of my own life through her detached, analytical lens. She observed the other two Prelorians. Their crystalline bodies, too, were healing, regenerating at an accelerated rate that defied their current environmental conditions. She linked it directly to the sustained, unique thermal signature that my presence, even as an echo, continued to generate within their network. Covertly, meticulously, Karina conducted an on-site xenobiological analysis of the area where I had made my sacrifice. Her sensitive instruments registered residual biothermal energy signatures, faint but distinct, that exhibited a unique harmonic frequency. It hummed with a specific resonance, a vibration not found in any other organic or inorganic compound she knew. Her theory crystallized. Human biothermic energy, specifically that unique resonant frequency, acted as a potent catalyst for Prelorian crystalline cellular repair and regeneration. My last warmth wasn't just warmth, it was medicine, a revelation that profoundly challenged everything her species believed about biology, physics, and the very nature of life. She knew her people, their strict logic, their inherent fear of chaotic life forms like humans, would never accept this. Not yet, not without understanding. With a conscious, deliberate decision that surprised even the echo of my own awareness within her, Karina dedication to hide my continued existence and the full scope of her discovery from the other Prylorian survivors. This shared secret, this intimate exchange of knowledge, my chaotic empathy blending with her elegant logic, forged a unique, private connection between us. A bond that deepened with every shared thought, every filtered perception. As Karina worked, sifting through the twisted wreckage for salvageable equipment, her internal sensors, now tuned sharper by my presence, detected faint, intermittent energy signatures, distant, small, but approaching. On Christo 7, nothing should be approaching. The readings purposed. A Vex Syndicate scout vessel. Its trajectory placed it on an undeniable collision course with our crash site. The fragile piece, the scientific wonder, shattered. Alarm, cold and metallic, pulsed through Karina's mind, echoing through my own non-physical core. They weren't just coming. They were coming for us. A guttural roar ripped through the frigid air, shaking the very ice beneath the crystalline wreckage. Karina's senses, amplified by the pervasive mental echo of Chris, flared with alarm. A dark, jagged silhouette plunged from the perpetually twilight sky of Christo 7, its descent a violent disruption of the moon's silent beauty. It was a Vex Syndicate scout vessel, larger and more heavily armored than the reconnaissance craft that had spotted them just cycles ago. Its hull, a dull, bruised metal, reflected none of the ambient blue light, instead absorbing it into a menacing void. Plasma conduits pulsed with sickly green energy along its flanks, a stark declaration of its lethal intent. The vessel slammed onto the ice fields a scant kilometer from their refuge, kicking up geysers of pulverized snow that glittered like shattered diamonds in the pale light. Ramps hissed down from its belly, disgorging a wave of heavily armored ground troops. They moved with the cold, precise efficiency of predators on a hunt. Their weapon systems, bulky and angular, bristled with kinetic accelerators and thermal lances, catching the faint light in predatory glints as they fanned out, forming a deadly crescent that advanced toward the fractured remnants of the Prylorian ship. Each heavy bootfall sent a faint tremor through the ice, a rhythmic thud that vibrated through Karina's crystalline form. Inside the wreckage, the air shimmered with a growing cacophony of fear. System alerts, once isolated blips, now screamed in unison, painting internal displays with urgent, flashing red. The collective apprehension of the surviving Prelorian scientists surged through their network, a wave of disarray and panic. Their delicate, faceted bodies shivered, not just from the residual cold, but from the raw, unadulterated terror that threatened to shatter their composure. High-pitched, desperate chimes of distress echoed through the chamber, a chorus of fragile glass about to break. Standard Vex assault pattern, Chris's mental voice cut through Karina's fear, a calm, clinical assessment in the storm. His perspective, filtered through her heightened senses, analyzed every detail. The staggered advance, the heavy weapon placement, the subtle communication signals between the Vex soldiers. He was cross-referencing their movements, their loadouts, against Terran Alliance combat doctrine, his mind a whirlwind of tactical data. Heavy infantry support, flanking maneuvers, main vehicle for breach. Typical, arrogant. Karina felt a conflicting surge within her, the primal terror for her people, the crushing burden of the human secret she harbored, and an intense, almost frantic plea for Chris's guidance. His perspective, so alien, so brutal in its clarity, was their only hope. She knew it with a certainty that chilled her more than the ice. Defensive capabilities? Chris's query was a sharp, direct command in her mind, overriding the ambient fear. Structural integrity? Any repurposed power cells? What can we work with, Karina? The questions were simple yet profound, cutting through the Prilorians' panic with their sheer practicality. Karina hesitated, her crystalline fingers clenching, the decision a heavy weight in her non-existent gut. To reveal him now, to risk the collective revulsion, the inherent fear of the chaotic human. But the Vex drew closer, their footsteps thundering against the wreckage. There was no other choice. With a deep internal tenacity, Karina initiated the transfer. She projected Chris's echo into the collective awareness of the other Prilorians, carefully filtering and framing it. A strategic resource, she broadcast, her mental voice firm, a mind with unparalleled tactical knowledge salvaged from the crash. He is not physical, merely an echo, a pattern of thought. We must trust him. The reaction was immediate, violent. A wave of shock, disbelief, and horror slammed back at her through the network. Mental shards of fear and revulsion, sharp and cold, pierced her own consciousness. Chaotic intrusion, unnatural, a human mind within us. The collective revulsion was palpable, their ordered, logical minds recoiling from the raw alien presence Chris represented. Their crystalline forms vibrated with a shared disgust that threatened to splinter their unity. Silence! Chris's mental command, unfiltered and sharp, ripped through the chaos, overriding Karina's careful mediation. He ignored their emotional turmoil, their fear, their revulsion. He had no time for it. Listen, Prilorian, Sector Gamma, reroute power conduits to the main bulkhead. Prilorian, Sector Delta, prepare to jettison the cryo-containment shield on my mark. Prilorian, main axis, brace for impact, seal the service tunnels now. His commands were concise, tactical, unambiguous, each one a precise instruction projected directly into the minds of the designated individuals. The Prilorians froze, their internal panic momentarily stunned by the sheer force of Chris's will. Their logical minds, so adept at scientific processing, struggled to integrate and execute combat directives from an unseen, alien entity. Their scientific training was ill-suited for immediate defense, their crystalline bodies shimmering with indecision, their thoughts a jumble of analytical paralysis. Now! Karina's mental voice, bolstered by Chris's presence, surged with an unexpected authority. She moved then, her slender form gliding with purpose towards a console, her crystalline fingers flying across the controls to reroute power. He knows, trust him. Move! She became Chris's physical avatar, her actions demonstrating the execution of his commands, urging her people to overcome their fear and trust her. Under Chris's relentless mental guidance, the Prilorians began to move, their scientific acumen quickly adapting. Sections of their crystalline ship designed for precise data processing were repurposed. Engineers, guided by Chris's vision, fabricated temporary barricades from fractured hull plating, their knowledge of crystalline resonance allowing them to bind the shards with surprising speed. Botanists, whose expertise lay in delicate flora, identified structural weaknesses in the Vex advance routes, setting up pressure points where collapse could be induced. The first wave of Vex raiders, confident in their superior firepower, marched directly into the improvised defenses. A localized explosion of repurposed power cells detonated beneath their feet, sending a shockwave through the ice. Sections of crystalline wreckage, precariously balanced by Prylorian engineers, collapsed directly onto the advancing Vex. The metallic shriek of rending armor mingled with the guttural cries of Vex soldiers as the unexpected structural collapses caused initial casualties, slowing their advance to a confused halt. From his command console on the scout vessel, the Vex commander watched, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. The Prylorians, these fragile glass dolls, were putting up surprisingly coordinated and effective resistance. His initial surprise twisted into a cold, calculated fury. He barked orders into his comms, his voice like grinding stone. Escalate force! Tactical shift! Breach the main hull now! Chris, utilizing the full breadth of the Prylorian network, became a silent, omnipresent conductor. He projected simultaneous, multifaceted defensive strategies, directing various groups to deploy different countermeasures. One cluster of scientists was ordered to create an ice fog screen from supercooled atmospheric processors, another to rig kinetic dampeners to destabilize Vex weaponry. He was everywhere, seeing, anticipating, commanding, his human ingenuity sparking an alien adaptability. The Prylorian scientists, despite their inexperience in combat, demonstrated remarkable adaptability and problem-solving skills. Their innate understanding of crystalline matter, of energy resonance, and structural integrity allowed them to creatively implement Chris's instructions. A botanist might reroute power to overload a Vex shield with a precise energy frequency, while a xenogeologist could trigger a localized fault line in the ice to swallow an advancing squad. They were not soldiers, but under Chris's command, they were becoming something far more dangerous. Brilliant minds weaponized by desperation. As the Vex adapted their attack, bringing their main assault vehicle, a heavily armored ground tank, to bear on the primary breach point, Chris perceived a critical structural vulnerability. Power cells, he projected, his mental voice sharp, cutting through the roar of Vex engines. Their primary conduits run directly beneath the forward chassis plate, exposed when firing heavy plasma. We can hit it. He formulated a high-risk counter tactic, audacious in its simplicity, using their remaining highly volatile power cells. He projected a precise, multi-step plan, a coordinated diversionary explosion to draw fire, a swift, synchronized movement from 3 Prylorians to plant the overloaded cells, and a perfectly timed detonation. The plan demanded synchronized action, absolute precision, and a willingness to face extreme danger. Karina, seeing the entire terrifyingly elegant scheme unfold in her mind, recognized the extreme danger. But she also saw the potential for decisive impact, the chance to turn the tide. Her connection with Chris had transcended mere survival. It was now a shared consciousness, a unified will. To me, she projected, her mental command ringing with a conviction that resonated through the entire network. Her crystalline form moved with swift purpose, leading her people, a fragile yet determined vanguard, into the complex high-stakes maneuver. The metallic groan of the Vex assault vehicle filled the frozen air, a deep, guttural sound that vibrated through Karina's crystalline bones. Its heavy treads churned the blue-tinged snow, spitting ice shards as it advanced, its plasma cannons cycling with an ominous hum. Now, Karina, now! Chris's thought voice, a warm, golden presence in her core, pulsed with urgent clarity. Scatter! Karina's chime-like cry, amplified by her bond with Chris, echoed across the ice field. The Prylorians, no longer just scientists, moved with a synchronized precision that was alien to their nature, yet perfectly orchestrated. They surged forward, a shimmering wave of faceted bodies, not retreating, but executing Chris's high-risk counter-tactic. One group, smaller and faster, peeled off, dashing beneath the vehicle's sweeping cannon array. They plunged repurposed power cells into the gaping vent beneath its primary weapon, their delicate digits working with a speed born of pure desperation and Chris's explicit mental blueprints. A flash of blinding white light, then a deafening crack ripped through the frigid silence. The vehicle's primary weapons sputtered, then died, followed by a series of cascading detonations deep within its propulsion systems. The massive Vex assault vehicle lurched, then listed heavily, a wounded beast. Its treads clawed uselessly at the ice before it finally screamed, a tortured symphony of rending metal, and crashed violently, sending a tidal wave of supercooled snow and twisted debris across the battlefield. The ground shuddered, and the remaining Vex infantry, caught in the unexpected disruption, staggered, their coordinated attack dissolving into disarray. "Hit them hard, Karina! They're broken!" Chris's commands came in a rapid-fire torrent, each thought a precisely targeted strike. "Flank right. Use the wreckage as cover. Target their comms arrays, then their legs. Don't engage in sustained fire. Hit and run." Karina, her own crystal lattice thrumming with adrenaline, and Chris's tactical genius, translated each intricate command into sharp, resonant mental impulses that coursed through the Prelorian network. Her voice, once hesitant, now carried the undeniable weight of command. "Flank! Focus fire! Disrupt communications!" She pointed, her slender arm a beacon, her confidence a tangible force. The surviving Prylorian scientists, a mixture of stark terror and a nascent, fierce pride in their own unexpected effectiveness, responded with an agility that defied their scholarly nature. They moved like quicksilver, their energy lances spitting bright, focused bolts, darting between the icy hummocks and the newly created craters. They were not just fighting, they were learning how to fight, transforming under the crucible of human leadership. From his vantage point within the wreckage of his own command unit, the Vex commander roared, his guttural curses echoing across the comms. "Impossible! Glass dolls! Overwhelm them! Full frontal charge! No prisoners!" His desperation was a palpable, ugly thing, seething through the Vex battle network. "He's committing, Karina. He thinks he can outnumber us." Chris's calm voice cut through the commander's rage. "Now, the traps. Trigger the northern array." Karina's mind latched onto the pre-planned series of cascading ice traps and energy conduits. "North array, detonate!" she chimed, her mental command rippling outwards. The ice, already stressed by the battle, fractured with a series of sharp reports. Jagged crystalline spires erupted from the ground, forming a deadly gauntlet, while hidden energy conduits pulsed, creating shimmering, invisible barriers. The charging Vex forces, caught in their own momentum, plunged headlong into the treacherous Christo 7 terrain. Plasma bolts ricocheted off newly formed ice walls. Soldiers stumbled into unseen energy fields, their armor sparking and smoking. Heavy casualties mounted, their furious charge turning into a disoriented scramble. Amidst the chaos, Chris directed Karina. "Commander, he's isolated. 2 to your left, 1 behind the collapsed comms tower. Move!" Karina, heart thrumming, her crystalline form vibrating with a primal exhilaration, led a small elite group of Prelorians. They moved with silent, deadly purpose, flowing through the fractured landscape. They cornered the Vex commander, severing his last frantic attempts at communication with his dwindling troops. The Vex commander, a hulking brute of segmented armor and snarling fury, found himself surrounded by the very glass dolls he had so easily dismissed. His shock was absolute, his rage impotent. He snarled, lunging, but a precisely aimed energy lance from a Prylorian scientist, a xenobotanist, no less struck his knee, dropping him to the ice with a pained bellow. He was captured, his fury palpable, but his fight utterly broken. "Salvage the comms array. Prioritize data extraction." "Now," Chris commanded, his voice permeated with an almost chilling efficiency. Prylorian specialists, guided by Chris's mental projections, swarmed the captured Vex commander's shattered communication unit. Their delicate tools worked with surgical precision, bypassing Vex encryption, pulling raw data streams from the damaged hardware. Karina, linking with them, felt the torrent of information flow into her mind. A cold, hard truth. It wasn't just salvage, it was hunting. The Vex Syndicate wasn't here by chance. Their broader objective, laid bare in encrypted logs and strategic orders, was the systematic hunting and enslavement of Prylorians for their unique crystalline biology. They saw her people not as sapient beings, but as a resource. The revelation galvanized the surviving Prilorians. Their fear, which had been a cold, constant companion, transformed into something harder, sharper. A resolute perseverance against the Vex, a fierce, shared willpower to never be prey. And woven into that determination was a profound, unspoken respect for the human echo that had turned them from victims into victors. Then a new energy signature bloomed on their salvaged long-range scans, a Prilorian patrol vessel entering Christos 7's system. Rescue. A wave of profound relief washed over Karina, mingling with Chris's quiet satisfaction. Their impossible collaboration, born of ice and desperation, had succeeded. Their bond, forged in fire and crystal, had deepened into something undeniable, a silent promise between them. The Prelorian patrol vessel settled onto the ice, its landing lights cutting through the blue twilight. Medical and security teams, encased in their sterile, efficient armor, deployed. They were met by the sight of exhausted but undeniably victorious scientists. And in their midst, guarded by a ring of shimmering Prilorian lances, was a bound, fuming Vex commander. The rescue team's commander, a high-ranking officer named Zilar, surveyed the scene with an expression of utter bewilderment. He couldn't reconcile the scientific Prelorians, known for their logic and peaceful pursuits, with the evidence of organized, devastating combat that littered the ice field. Karina stepped forward, her crystalline form radiating a newfound sense of authority. Her voice, though still chime-like, resonated with an unshakable conviction. She was ready. Ready to explain the impossible events. Ready to reveal the human at her core. Ready to shatter the long-held dogmas of her people. The Prelorian patrol vessel's bay doors hissed shut, sealing away the biting cold of Christos 7. Karina, still feeling the phantom chill on her crystalline limbs, turned to the rescue commander, a towering Prelorian named Kale. His multifaceted eyes, usually calm and analytical, shimmered with a controlled agitation. "Commander Kyle," Karina began, her voice steady despite the rapid thrum of her internal resonance. "The Vex assault was orchestrated with brutal efficiency. Our initial defensive systems were completely compromised." She omitted Chris's name for now, allowing his echo to guide her words, shaping the narrative. However, through rapid adaptive strategies and an unprecedented level of coordinated tactical response, we were able to repel their forces, secure their commander, and recover critical intelligence. Cal's crystalline brow plates furrowed, the subtle shift a clear sign of his disbelief. Adaptive strategies, xenobotanist Karina? Coordinated tactical response? With respect, your team consists of scientists and linguists, not combat specialists. To claim you repelled a Vex assault unit, a force known for its brutal efficacy that defies all logical probability. It is quite simply impossible. His tone was not accusatory, but imbued with a profound skepticism that felt like a cold, logical wall to Chris, even through Karina's mind. Karina met Kyle's gaze, a quiet certainty emanating from her that Chris amplified. "With all due respect, Commander, the impossible occurred." She gestured to the secured section of the bay. "The proof is empirical. Bring in the Vex commander." Two Prilorian guards, their crystalline bodies gleaming under the bay's soft lights, escorted a hulking Vex warrior into the center of the deck. Its 6 limbs were bound by energy cuffs, but its single malevolent eye still burned with hatred, scanning them with predatory intent. Simultaneously, Karina activated a holographic display on a nearby console, projecting fragments of the salvaged Vex comms data, tactical schematics of the Prelorian wreckage, projected attack vectors, and chilling voice intercepts filled the air. The evidence of the Vex's overwhelming force and their intent to capture, not just salvage, was undeniable. The Vex commander grunted, a guttural sound of frustration and defeat. Cal's expression shifted, his disbelief slowly giving way to a grim acknowledgement. He observed the Vex commander, then the data, his internal processors clearly struggling to reconcile the facts. The logical impossibility of the Prilorians' victory clashed with the irrefutable evidence. "This changes everything," he stated, his voice now devoid of skepticism, replaced by cold, strategic urgency. "The Vex Syndicate on Christos 7. Hostile intent confirmed. Prioritization shifts. Secure transport of all survivors, and this intelligence is paramount. He barked orders to his crew, the patrol vessel's engines humming to a deeper frequency as they prepared for hyperspace jump. Later, in a small private comms chamber aboard the vessel, the hum of the FTL drive a low vibration beneath their feet. Karina approached Kyle once more. Her internal resonance was a nervous flutter Chris felt acutely. "Commander," she began, her voice softer now, almost a whisper against the cool, quiet air. "There is another detail, one that requires discretion and an open mind." She carefully explained the nature of Chris's sacrifice, the moment his warmth had enveloped them, and how his consciousness had, against all known biological principles, integrated into their telepathic network. She spoke of the echo, a warm, sentient thought within the cool lattice of their collective. Kyle stood rigid, his head canted slightly as if listening to a frequency only he could hear. His multifaceted eyes narrowed, scanning Karina's form as if searching for a hidden anomaly. "A human consciousness? Residing within our network? Xenobotanist, that is biologically impossible. A human mind is chaotic, hot-blooded. Their neural patterns are incompatible with our crystalline structures. This is a profound anomaly, a philosophical impossibility." He ran a slender, crystalline finger over his temple, a gesture of deep intellectual struggle. To Chris, through the bond, Kale's mind felt like a complex, meticulously crafted clockwork mechanism that had suddenly been presented with a gear made of liquid light. Chris, sensing Kale's struggle, pushed a specific tactical image through the bond to Karina. A weakness in the Vex commander's energy cuffs, a subtle flicker only detectable with the shared awareness of the network. Karina immediately related. "Commander, the Vex commander's energy cuffs. There's a minor flux in the sub-frequency modulator, easily exploitable if he attempts to override them." Kale paused, his gaze snapping back to Karina, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He accessed a datapad, his fingers flying across the interface, confirming the obscure detail. His initial discomfort with Chris's existence remained palpable, but the pragmatic soldier in him recognized the undeniable value of the insight. The human echo, however alien, was undeniably useful. In the ship's sterile, softly lit research lab, Karina meticulously documented her findings. Holographic projections of Prilorian crystalline structures glowed, overlaid with complex thermal and bioenergetic data. She charted the healing resonance, combining her Christo 7 observations with the detailed bioenergetic signature Chris had provided. She meticulously plotted how the human biothermic energy, specifically its unique frequency and intensity, caused their crystalline cells to resonate, triggering rapid self-repair and structural stabilization, a potent, targeted medicine for their species. Her movements were precise, driven by a fierce scientific curiosity. Through their bond, Chris poured more comprehensive data into Karina's mind. The intricate mechanisms of human endothermic biology, the complex interplay of their organic systems, the nuances of their chaotic emotional responses. He showed her the warmth of a human embrace, the fierce protectiveness of a family, the stubborn refusal to give up. Karina absorbed it all, her mind a sponge for the alien concepts, a new understanding of life unfolding before her internal gaze. The journey back to Prelorian space became a blur of shared purpose. Hours bled into days as Karina and Chris collaborated, analyzing the Vex data, refining the healing resonance report, and exploring the boundless intricacies of human physiology. Their bond deepened with every shared thought, every intellectual challenge overcome, every moment of mutual reliance. What began as a desperate alliance forged in ice had become an unbreakable partnership of minds. The patrol vessel finally dropped out of hyperspace, emerging into the shimmering light of a secure Prilorian orbital station. The station, a vast, intricately woven crystalline structure, pulsed with an ancient, silent power. As they docked, a high-level delegation from the Prilorian High Council, alerted to the unusual circumstances of the rescue, awaited them. Their collective presence, even before they spoke, was a cold, impenetrable wall of ancient logic and strict dogma. Karina and Kale were immediately escorted to a vast, austere chamber. Before them, 7 crystalline figures sat enthroned, their forms radiating an aura of absolute authority. The council leader, an ancient Prilorian whose facets seemed to absorb all light, spoke first, their voice a low, resonant chime. Commander Kyle, xenobotanist Karina, the intelligence regarding the Vex Syndicate is troubling, but your report of the Christos 7 incident and the improbable survival of your team raises far more profound concerns. The interrogation began, sharp, precise, each question a probe seeking weakness or illogic. Karina, undaunted, stepped forward. Her internal resonance was steady now, fortified by Chris's quiet strength. She formally presented her preliminary report on Chris's consciousness and the healing resonance, projecting the data onto the central platform. Counselors, the human corporal Chris Jones, though his physical form perished, survives as a sentient echo within our network. His unique bioenergetic signature, what I term the healing resonance, has demonstrated unprecedented restorative effects on Prilorian crystalline structures, effects that defy our current understanding of biological limitations in interspecies interaction. A collective gasp, a faint agitated hum rippled through the council, their multifaceted eyes fixed on Karina, then on the projected data. Fear mingled with disbelief in their communal thought, a chilling wave that washed over Chris through the network. He felt their rigid adherence to ancient isolationist dogma, their profound apprehension at this unprecedented biological contamination. His presence, his very existence, was a profound threat to their ordered, insular world. The council leader's voice dropped, edged with a cold, almost surgical precision. Xenobotanist Karina, we demand a full, unredacted accounting of all data related to this human echo and this healing resonance. Furthermore, the High Council formally proposes a purification protocol for your network to remove this foreign presence, this contamination, from our sacred collective. Karina's body stiffened, a defiant tremor running through her. Chris felt her perseverance harden, sharp and unyielding. Counselors, I staunchly refuse. Corporal Jones is not a contamination. He is an integral part of our survival, the catalyst for a profound new biological paradigm. To purify him would be to destroy a unique sentient life and to discard knowledge that could revolutionize our understanding of healing and interspecies symbiosis. The council leader's chime deepened, resonating with undisguised anger. Your defiance is noted, xenobotanist. Effective immediately, your research and your person are placed under immediate review. Your access to all advanced biofoundry and genetic sequencing resources is suspended. You are isolated, Karina, until you reconsider your dangerous position. Despite the council's censure, Karina's mind raced. She knew the station's intricate protocols, the bureaucratic loopholes. Chris's guidance, precise and tactical, even without a body, helped her navigate the labyrinthine access logs. Within hours, using a forgotten override code and an obscure requisition for critical waste disposal, she secured limited, clandestine access to a restricted biofoundry. She would validate her claims even if it meant defying the entire High Council. Chris felt a profound surge of protective grit from Karina, a fierce, unwavering loyalty that resonated deep within his disembodied consciousness. Her defiance, her willingness to risk everything for him, was a profound act of love. This was no longer just his fight for survival, but their shared challenge, their bond a defiant spark against the cold, rigid dogma of her people. Karina's slender fingers flew across the control panel, a blur of motion that belied the tremor in her crystalline frame. The High Council's orders had been absolute, their mental chimes echoing with cold disapproval, yet her tenacity remained a solid, defiant core. She navigated the restricted access protocols of the orbital station's intersectors, her scientific authority a shield, her knowledge of Prilorian systems an intricate weapon. A heavy, resonant thrum vibrated through the floor as the biofoundry chamber's massive security door hissed shut behind her, sealing them into a world of sterile light and muted hums. The chamber itself was a vast, multi-tiered space, dominated by a central fabrication column where holographic schematics of complex organic and crystalline structures shimmered in the air. Designed for the precise replication of Prilorian biological forms or the regeneration of damaged tissue, it was a marvel of xenobotanical engineering. But reconfiguring its intricate systems for a hybrid organic crystalline life form, a being of impossible contradictions, presented Karina with a daunting challenge. Her internal chimes, usually a melody of logical order, now contained a sharp, discordant note of frustration as she wrestled with the unprecedented parameters. She initiated the meticulous process, drawing Chris's genetic blueprint directly from his consciousness within their shared telepathic network. His presence, a steady warmth in the cool, silent landscape of her mind, became the primary data stream. Karina began to map his human genome, a vibrant, complex tapestry, onto the foundational crystalline biological structures unique to her species. It was like trying to weave liquid light into solid ice, an act of sheer will and scientific audacity. This vein here, Chris's thought projected, a clear mental image of a human circulatory system blooming in her mind. The capillary density in human dermal layers is crucial for thermoregulation, and the neural pathways for pain, they're not just simple relays, they're intricate protective networks. He guided her, his practical, lived understanding of his own anatomy and the complex, chaotic neural architecture of his consciousness flowing into her. A river of information she meticulously channeled into the Foundry's protocols. During the exhaustive genetic sequencing, Karina uncovered something that sent a sharp, delighted chime through her entire being. Specific human genomic markers, a dazzling array, indicated an extraordinary capacity for biological adaptability and rapid cellular recovery. These traits, so vibrant and dynamic, were completely absent in the more static, predictable Prilorian genome, a stark contrast to their measured crystalline replication. This profound biological discovery ignited an intellectual firestorm within Karina. It forced her to fundamentally reevaluate long-held Prilorian biological doctrines, the very notion of her species' perceived perfection. Her ancestors had always believed their crystalline forms were the zenith of evolutionary design, immune to the messy vulnerabilities of organic life. Yet here was evidence of a different kind of strength, a resilience born of constant change and swift repair, a testament to the chaotic beauty of human biology. A subtle distortion rippled through the ambient energy of the biofoundry, an almost imperceptible shift in the harmonious hum of the station. Chris, ever the soldier, even in his disembodied state, felt it first. We're being watched. His mental warning sliced through Karina's focus, a cold prickle of alarm in the network. Subtle probes, energy signatures. They're not just observing the chamber, they're trying to parse our fabrication signals. Karina didn't hesitate. Leveraging Chris's tactical insights, his instinct for identifying vulnerabilities and improvising solutions, she swiftly devised and implemented innovative countermeasures. Her fingers flew across the crystal interface, repurposing the biofoundry's diagnostic protocols. A shimmering energy field, a cloaking veil of randomized biofabrication signals, rippled invisibly around the central column, masking their unique hybrid blueprint from the Council's remote surveillance. As they continued their intense collaboration, their minds intertwined, sharing the mental and physical space of the chamber, Karina began to experience vivid fragments of Chris's deeply personal memories. She saw the warm glow of a sunset on a verdant earth, felt the solid weight of a comrade's hand on his shoulder in a moment of shared triumph, tasted the sharp sting of sorrow at a fallen friend's memorial. Moments of human joy, sorrow, and profound affection washed over her, a chaotic, beautiful deluge of emotion. Chris, in turn, perceived Karina's unique Prilorian perspective on existence. He experienced the vast, intricate tapestry of her species' communal consciousness, a silent, resonant hum of shared logic and memory. He felt their meticulous, almost alien capacity for collective calm, a profound sense of order that stretched back eons, utterly alien to the individualistic, often turbulent emotional landscape of humanity. This intimate, reciprocal exchange of deeply personal experiences of disparate biologies and cultures laid bare, culminated in a powerful moment of mutual understanding. No words were exchanged, no touch was made, yet a profound, unspoken romantic connection solidified between them, bridging the immense biological and cultural divides that should have kept them forever apart. It was an inevitability, a bond forged in ice and fire, in death and rebirth. With a deep, resonant chime of purpose, Karina initiated the primary cellular growth phase for the new body. The central fabrication column began to glow with a soft, pulsing light, the air thickening with nascent energy. This was the most delicate procedure, requiring the precise modulation of Chris's human genetic code with the foundational crystalline lattice structure of the Prilorians. A sudden, jarring klaxon shrieked through the chamber, and the lights flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows across the holographic schematics. A critical power surge threatened to destabilize the growth chamber, the shimmering nascent form within it faltering, risking the complete destruction of the hybrid body and jeopardizing weeks of their dedicated, perilous research. Auxiliary conduits, Chris's mental voice roared, sharp and immediate, cutting through the chaos. Reroute primary power through the waste reclamation conduits. It's unconventional, but it's the only path with sufficient shielding. His inherent human instinct for improvisation and rapid problem-solving, honed by countless battlefield emergencies, flared to life, a beacon in the storm. Karina, without a second's hesitation, executed the highly risky maneuver. Her fingers danced across the sparking console, rerouting energy through an unconventional, almost unheard-of pathway. The shuddering of the chamber slowly subsided, the klaxons dying down, the red warning lights fading to a steady, reassuring green. They had averted catastrophic failure, their absolute reliance on each other under extreme pressure profoundly reinforced. With the crisis averted, the hybrid body continued its formation within the glowing column. It displayed increasingly distinct human Prilorian features, a testament to the impossible fusion. Skin, faintly shimmering with subdermal facets, began to stretch over a crystalline, skeletal framework. Humanoid eyes with the faint iridescent gleam of Prilorian crystal formed within the developing face. Its viability was undeniable, signaling the nearing completion of the biological integration. Karina experienced a profound sense of triumph, a joyous, soaring chime of success that resonated through their bond. Yet it was intermingled with deep trepidation. She fully comprehended that the successful existence of this hybrid body would irrevocably challenge the very foundations of Prilorian society, shaking their rigid doctrines to their core. Chris, feeling the warmth of life returning, projected an overwhelming surge of hope and renewed purpose through the network. His consciousness, so long a disembodied echo, now felt closer to a tangible, physical form than ever before. He was coming home. The bio-foundry chamber hummed with increased intensity, the light within the column growing brighter, signaling the final stages of the fabrication process, poised for the imminent moment of Chris's awakening in his new, uniquely evolved body. The bio-foundry chamber exhaled a final, soft hiss, its intricate mechanisms disengaging with the quiet precision of a breath held then slowly released. The low hum that had permeated the air faded into silence, leaving behind only the distant ambient thrum of the orbital station. Within the chamber's heart, a final, intense surge of bioenergy flared. Chris's disembodied consciousness, a golden spark within the cool crystal lattice, lurched forward, pulled by an irresistible current. It was a wrenching, exhilarating passage, a sudden, blinding becoming. Light. Not the filtered light of Karina's optical sensors, but a raw, brilliant white that seared behind his eyelids. Air. A gasp, ragged and involuntary, filling lungs he hadn't possessed moments before. A deep, resonant sound, his own heartbeat, thrumming a fierce primal rhythm through a chest that was suddenly, profoundly his, and warmth. A powerful, radiating furnace at his core, a vibrant, undeniable heat spreading through every new limb, every synthetic nerve. It was overwhelming, a cacophony of sensation after the quiet, ethereal existence. Like drowning in life itself. He flexed. Fingers, strong and supple, curled into a fist. The skin, a familiar human hue, felt dense, almost impossibly resilient, hinting at the crystalline structure woven beneath. His new musculature hummed with an unexpected, profound power, a seamless blend of Terran biology and Prelorian endurance. He pushed, and the bed beneath him gave way with a soft sigh of hydraulics. He stood, solid and grounded, the world a vibrant, tangible reality. Karina stepped forward then, her crystalline body resonating with a complex symphony of emotions Chris could now feel in a way he never had before. A shimmering wave of overwhelming relief, a sharp, clear chord of scientific triumph, and a profound, reverent awe that echoed deep within him. Her faceted eyes, usually so guarded, were wide, reflecting the light of his rebirth. Their first direct physical contact was a hesitant brush of hands, then a firm clasp. A current, warmer and more potent than any static discharge, surged between them, a silent confirmation of their bond, amplified now by his physical presence. It was real. He was real. They were real. The telepathic link, once a conscious effort, a careful translation of thoughts, deepened instantaneously. It became a seamless, instinctual exchange, an unbidden flow of emotion, intention, and memory. His thoughts were her thoughts, her feelings his, a constant, gentle hum of shared existence. New perceptions bloomed in Chris's mind. He felt the subtle, crystalline resonances of the chamber walls, the faint, ambient energy signatures of the orbital station's life support systems, a symphony of unseen forces vibrating around them. His hybrid physiology had granted him a sixth sense, a subtle awareness of the universe's underlying patterns. But most potent was the constant, life-giving warmth radiating from his core. It was a furnace, steady and unwavering, a uniquely human biological trait now woven into his Prelorian structure. It was a stark, defiant contrast to their cold, dependent species, a beacon of his origin carried within his new form. Far above in the High Council's central nexus, remote surveillance systems registered the successful activation of Biofoundry Chamber Alpha 7's final phase. An unprecedented biosignature, radiating stable, complex energy patterns, flickered into existence. Alarms, silent but urgent, flared across multiple terminals. Moments later, Karina's private comms channel chimed with an imperious, official summons. The High Council's voice, cold and inflexible, crackled through the air, demanding her immediate presence and that of the human contamination before the full assembly. They move fast, Chris thought, the words flowing directly into Karina's mind. Predictable. They see a threat. They neutralize it. We need to anticipate their argument, find their weakness. His military experience, once a relic of a past life, surged, mapping out the Council's likely logical and emotional vulnerabilities. Karina, already moving with focused intensity, her mind a whirlwind of data, began compiling the scientific evidence. Holographic displays shimmered around her, detailing the healing resonance, the precise biological viability of Chris's hybrid form, a meticulous dossier of irrefutable proof. A quiet moment of shared willpower passed between them. Their intertwined hands tightened, the telepathic connection a powerful silent affirmation of their commitment to each other and to the future they would carve out together. Chris took his first steps out of the biofoundry chamber, the smooth synth steel cool beneath his new feet. Karina moved in perfect synchronicity beside him, a united, defiant front ready to face the scrutiny and judgment of her people. In the adjacent corridors, Prylorian technical staff and security personnel froze. Visible shock, quickly giving way to fear and confusion, rippled through their ranks. Their crystalline bodies stiffened, weapons half raised at the sight of Chris, a creature unlike any they had ever encountered. A living paradox of human warmth and Prylorian grace. Chris and Karina advanced through the orbital station's pristine, silent corridors. The tension built with every step, a palpable hum in the air, propelling them towards the imposing, crystalline gates of the High Council chambers. The air in the grand antechamber still hummed with the faint, residual charge of Chris's reawakening. A silent tremor beneath the smooth, cool synth stone floor. Now he and Karina moved through it, their footsteps echoing with unnerving clarity in the quiet space, towards the imposing entrance of the High Council chambers. The doors themselves were not doors at all, but vast, interlocking, crystalline petals that shimmered with an inner light, each facet etched with the spiraling glyphs of ancient Prilorian history and authority. As they approached, the petals parted with an almost reverent sigh of displaced air, revealing a space that swallowed light and sound alike. Inside the chamber was a dizzying inverted geode, a vast crystalline dome arched overhead, reflecting and refracting the ambient light into 1,000 blue-white rays. Around a central, elevated platform, the assembled Prilorian High Council sat, their elder forms more elaborately faceted, their crystalline bodies catching the light with a solemn, internal glow. As Chris stepped fully into the chamber, Karina by his side, a palpable wave of psychic energy washed over him. He felt their collective resonance, a rigid, intricate harmony that had previously been a distant, ordered hum. Now it fractured, shifting into a discordant thrum of fear and indignation that scraped against his hybrid senses. Several counselors visibly recoiled, their slender shoulders drawing inward, their crystalline faces subtly darkening, as if a shadow had passed over their inner luminescence. Lead Counselor Zirin, an ancient and stern Prilorian whose facets seemed perpetually set in an expression of disapproval, rose from the central seat. His voice, when it came, was not loud, but it resonated with a cold, unwavering authority that made the very air feel heavy. "Karina of House Kale," he intoned, his gaze like twin lasers of frigid light, "you stand accused of unauthorized biological experimentation and the manifestation of a blasphemous biological entity. This thing you have brought before us is an affront to our purity." Karina, though her crystalline body faintly shivered under the Council's collective psychic assault, maintained an outward composure that was a testament to her newfound dedication. She stepped forward, her hand still linked with Chris's, and the gesture seemed to fuel a subtle, golden luminescence within her own crystalline structure. "Esteemed counselors," she began, her voice clear and precise, "I present not a blasphemy, but a miracle. My scientific logs, meticulously recorded, detail Corporal Chris Jones's selfless sacrifice, his psychic absorption into our network, and the documented healing resonance his bioenergy induces in Prilorian physiology." As she spoke, the air around her shimmered with faint, holographic projections, sensor readings, thermal scans, even microscopic views of crystalline cells repairing themselves under human biothermic influence. Chris stood beside her, his hybrid form a living paradox in the frigid chamber. His skin, a miracle of Prilorian bioengineering, subtly radiated warmth, a steady, comforting heat that defied the icy aura of the Council. His presence was a tangible, undeniable contradiction to their initial attempts to dismiss his existence as a mere psychic echo or a delusion. He was here, solid and breathing, a beating heart in a place that knew only crystalline stillness. A collective, disapproving hum rippled through the Council. One of the elder counselors, a female with particularly intricate facets, projected a mental image of an ancient Prilorian scroll, its glyphs speaking of sacred doctrines. "Our ancient texts," she resonated, her voice a chorus of cold, logical consensus, "strictly forbid interspecies biological integration. This being is a dangerous aberration, a threat to our species' purity, a contaminant." Counselor Zirin's gaze sharpened, piercing Karina. "The solution is clear. You will immediately perform a full psychic purge to sever this echo from the Prilorian network. His physical form will then be dismantled for controlled study, or if deemed too volatile, for complete eradication." No. The thought was a sudden white-hot blaze in Karina's mind. Chris's voice, distinct and utterly clear within their shared link. "Their fear is blinding them. Their logic is flawed, Karina. They see a threat where there is only a bridge. Challenge their prejudice. Point out the inconsistencies. They claim purity, but they rely on technology to survive the cold. My warmth is natural. It's a gift, not a threat. Bolstered by Chris's unwavering persistence, a core of human stubbornness that resonated deep within her, Karina took a deep breath. With all due respect, Counselor Zeron, you speak of threats and purity, yet your pronouncements are steeped in fear, not logic. This bond, this integration, is not an aberration. It is an evolutionary step, a path towards greater adaptability. Your isolationist worldview, while preserving our heritage, has stagnated our potential. She met Zeron's cold gaze, then with a surge of conviction, she reached out with her mind. A shared memory, raw and visceral, erupted into the Council's collective consciousness. It was the Vex attack, not as a sterile report, but as a lived experience. They saw through Karina's eyes, the desperate chaos, the fragile Prilorians stumbling, the cold terror of impending annihilation. Then Chris's voice, clear and commanding, echoed in their minds, directing their movements with uncanny precision. They felt the impossible odds, the Vex raiders closing in, and then the sudden ingenious traps, the repurposed ship technology, the coordinated defense orchestrated by a human mind. They witnessed Chris's tactical genius, a calculated ruthlessness born of countless battles, turning a group of scientists into an impossibly effective fighting force. The experience was over in a blink, but the impact lingered like a physical blow. A profound moment of internal dissonance rippled through the council. Their crystalline bodies shuddered, their collective psychic hum devolving into a chaotic, grating static. The undeniable evidence of Chris's tactical value, a strategic brilliance that had saved their kin, clashed violently with their ingrained biological and cultural prejudices. Their pristine, logical minds struggled to reconcile the two. Counselor Zeron, though visibly shaken, was ancient for a reason. He quickly adapted, his internal logic recalculating with chilling speed. An impressive display, he conceded, his voice strained. However, such an unpredictable variable cannot be permitted unbound. An alternative, Corporal Jones's permanent containment within a secure biofoundry. He shall be subject to supervised research by Karina of House Kale under strict council oversight. It was imprisonment, subtly disguised as scientific inquiry. Chris's newly resonant and integrated voice, no longer just an echo in Karina's mind, but a clear, commanding presence that seemed to fill the chamber, vehemently rejected the proposition. "My name is Chris Jones," he stated, his words carrying the weight of a reborn man. "I am a sentient being, and I assert my individual rights. I am not a specimen for containment, and Karina, who gave me a second life, is not my keeper. We demand freedom for both of us." Their combined telepathic connection flared, a powerful surge of defiance and unified will that radiated outwards like a shockwave. It momentarily overwhelmed the Council's collective mental defenses, a sudden bright burst of raw, untamed emotion and unbreakable perseverance. The counselors flinched, some clutching their heads, their internal light flickering erratically, demonstrating the sheer, unyielding strength of their bond. Counselor Zeron, his gaze now narrowed to burning slits, regained control with a visible effort. "Refusal of council decree constitutes an act of insubordination and treason," he declared, his voice hard as unyielding crystal. "If you refuse compliance, you are both declared rogue entities." A low, mechanical hum began to pulse through the chamber. "Security protocols initiated. Apprehend them immediately." From the shadows around the perimeter of the chamber, Prilorian security forces, previously positioned with discreet, almost invisible efficiency, now visibly advanced. Their crystalline armor glinted, reflecting the dome's blue-white light, and the twin barrels of their energy weapons hummed with a low, dormant energy, ready to unleash their frigid, incapacitating blasts. Chris's hybrid senses sharpened, his mind already a whirlwind of calculations. Environmental factors, the dome's structural weaknesses, the positions of the crystalline support pillars. Guard formations, their predictable patterns, their lines of fire. Potential escape routes, the massive entrance pedals, maintenance conduits, the ventilation shafts high above. His military training, now amplified by Prilorian processing speed, prepared him for the inevitable conflict. Karina, her hand still entwined with Chris's, stood firm, her psychic presence a beacon of defiance and unwavering loyalty. Against the cold, rigid judgment of her people, her bond with him burned brighter than any star. The council chambers erupted. Before the High Council's collective wrath could fully manifest, before the cold, crystalline precision of Prylorian security could lock down the room, Chris moved. His new hybrid body, a symphony of organic and engineered perfection, coiled and struck. Two guards, their faceted bodies shimmering with the faint blue glow of active energy suppression fields, lunged. Chris met them not with brute force, but with a fluidity that shocked even himself. He sidestepped the first, a blur of motion, his new limbs absorbing the impact of the crystalline guard's missed grab. With the second, he spun, a low sweep of his legs sending the guard tumbling. He felt the subtle hum of Karina's mind, a ripple of controlled chaos. Localized sensory distortions, faint but effective, made the nearest guards stumble, their chiming protests echoing in Chris's enhanced hearing. Their precise formations dissolved into a momentary, disoriented scramble. That was all the opening Chris needed. He was a phantom, a whisper of motion in the opulent hall, a precise jab to a nerve cluster here, a twist and disarm there. Energy rifles clattered to the polished floor, their lethal muzzles pointed harmlessly away. His movements were efficient, non-lethal, a testament to years of training now amplified by alien strength and agility. He wasn't just evading, he was dismantling their defense. One precise human-taught maneuver at a time. Behind the dais, maintenance panel, third conduit down, left. The thought, sharp and clear, wasn't a voice in his ear, but a fully formed tactical sequence projected directly into Karina's mind. She didn't hesitate. Her crystalline hand, movements now mirroring his almost perfectly, flashed toward the ornate council dais. The smooth, cool surface parted, revealing a dark, cramped opening. The very symbol of Prylorian authority now served as their escape hatch. A wave of pure, frigid fury pulsed through Chris's nascent telepathic senses. The High Council's collective consciousness, a vast, cold ocean of logic, now churned with outrage. Their escape was an unprecedented affront, a chaotic blasphemy. They plummeted into the hidden service ducts, leaving the grandeur of the council chambers behind for a labyrinth of cold metal, humming conduits, and the faint, acrid scent of ozone and lubricants. The narrow passages pressed in, a stark contrast to the open opulence above, yet Chris felt a thrill of grim satisfaction. His hybrid senses, sharper than any human's, picked up subtle structural weaknesses, vibrations, the faint echo of unused conduits. He saw alternative pathways, shortcuts that Karina, with all her intimate knowledge of the facility, had never mapped. Karina, meanwhile, focused, her brow furrowed in concentration. A psychic dampening field, tight and controlled, emanated from her, cloaking their combined bioenergy signature. Prylorian tracking systems, they knew, would already be sweeping the facility, but her field was a shroud, masking the warm, chaotic human presence and her own now tainted resonance. Their desperate flight through the dark veins of the facility ended abruptly. A sudden rush of warm air, a cacophony of unfamiliar sounds, and they emerged, blinking, into the vibrant chaos of a bustling Prylorian market district. Below the government sector, far from the cold, sterile logic of the council, life teemed. Alien forms, their crystalline bodies shimmering with 1,000 hues, haggled over exotic goods. The air thrummed with a dizzying mix of languages, scents, and the vibrant energy of commerce. Then the market's cacophony faltered. A piercing, insistent chime echoed from every public display, every personal comm unit, a galaxy-wide emergency broadcast. The High Council's chillingly calm, unified voice announced it. Chris and Karina were rogue entities, dangerous traitors, fugitives from Prylorian justice. Chris watched the immediate public reaction. Confusion rippled first, a low murmur through the crowd. Then, as the broadcast continued, as their faces, his human face, Karina's once revered features flashed across the screens. Confusion curdled into fear, then suspicion. Crystalline bodies stiffened, eyes shifted, their gazes now cold and wary. Karina stumbled, a faint gasp escaping her lips. The severance, the sudden, brutal ostracization from her people's collective consciousness left a void in her mind, a deep, painful ache that resonated even through their bond. It was like a limb had been torn away, leaving her exposed and utterly alone. Chris, feeling her anguish, squeezed her hand, a subtle reinforcement in the face of such profound isolation. He assessed the mounting threat with a soldier's cold logic. Prylorian fleets, allied systems, they would all be hunting them now. Escape from the planet was no longer an option. It was an urgent necessity. They found precarious refuge in an abandoned hovercart loading bay, tucked away in the grimy shadows of a cargo depot. The air here was thick with the scent of lubricant and metal dust. Identity, currency, off-world travel, the list of immediate needs stretched before them, daunting and impossible. Chris's strategic mind, honed by countless battlefield scenarios, began to meticulously map out the city's complex transit infrastructure. He saw the flow of traffic, the blind spots, the less guarded arteries leading to a remote spaceport he'd only seen on outdated schematics. He could navigate this alien labyrinth. Karina watched him, her own psychic pain momentarily forgotten in the face of his intense focus. He wasn't just surviving, he was adapting, planning, forging a path where there seemingly was none. A deeper understanding of human resilience, their unique, stubborn ability to carve out existence against insurmountable odds, settled in her crystalline heart. Chris projected the city's schematics into Karina's mind, a luminous web of arteries and veins. We avoid the high-density public sectors, he thought, his mental voice a steady hum against the crystal lattice of her consciousness. Too many facial recognition drones, too many psychic dampeners. We're going low. Service tunnels, maintenance ducts, the underbelly where the less sanctioned elements of Prylorian society conduct their business. There's a spaceport on the outer rim, mostly independent freight, light on official oversight. Our best shot. Karina's thoughts, precise and cool, rippled back. Evading systemic surveillance through unscheduled transit routes and illicit networks. This runs contrary to all logical Prylorian protocols. The probability of detection is substantial. Her internal landscape, usually ordered, showed a flicker of unease, a ripple in her crystalline certainty. Logic doesn't account for chaos, Karina, Chris countered, projecting images of bustling human markets, of shadows and alleys, of faces lost in anonymous crowds. We'll use the chaos. Crude identity masks a slouch in the shoulders, an averted gaze, a focus on blending with the background hum. Think less about being invisible, more about being forgettable. Every city has its blind spots, its cracks where the light doesn't quite reach. Prylorian or human, it's all the same. They move like ghosts through the lower market districts, the air thick with the metallic tang of unrefined processing chemicals and the faint, sweet scent of bioluminescent fungi growing in damp corners. Chris, in his new, shimmering form, moved with a fluid grace born of countless patrols through war-torn urban zones. His awareness was a living map, tracing sightlines, anticipating patrol rhythms, guiding Karina through a labyrinth of grime-streaked alleys and echoing service tunnels. Overhead, the pristine, crystalline towers of the upper city shimmered, oblivious to the shadowy dance below. Karina, focusing intently, maintained a subtle psychic dampening field around them, a projected aura of generalized contentment. It was a faint, soothing hum, designed to blend with the background psychic noise of the crowds, to suggest they were simply another pair of citizens going about their day. Yet, beneath the placid surface of her projection, Chris could feel the tight coil of her internal stress, the unfamiliar tension of deception, a blare of alarm from a nearby public transport hub. Prylorian security sweep in Sector Gamma 9, a synthesized voice announced, echoing through the narrow thoroughfares. Chris reacted instantly, his hand closing around Karina's slender wrist, pulling her with unexpected force into a shadowed alcove behind an overflowing waste receptacle. The hum of a patrol drone passed mere centimeters from their hidden faces, its thermal sensors sweeping the main thoroughfare. Its light, a cold blue beam, sliced through the air, just missing their hiding spot. Karina's projected contentment wavered, a brief flash of pure, cold terror from her bleeding into their shared link. As the drone moved on, Chris realized the flaw in his plan. Their unique forms, his shimmering skin, and her elegant facets made true blending impossible. He adjusted, a new strategy forming. We changed the narrative, he projected. We stopped trying to be invisible. We become something else. He straightened, pulling Karina with him, his posture shifting. He projected an air of aloof authority, a subtle arrogance. Karina, understanding, mirrored his stance, her crystalline body now seeming to gleam with intentionality, no longer trying to hide, but to impress. They became a rare upper-class Prolorian and her exotic, cybernetically enhanced personal guard, a visual anomaly that would be dismissed as a peculiar, aristocratic affectation rather than a threat. Passers-by gave them a wide berth, their psychic emanations shifting from casual indifference to slight deference, a ripple of curiosity that quickly dissipated. To secure local currency, Chris guided them to a minor, illicit data broker's stall, tucked away in a dimly lit corner of the market. The air here was thick with the scent of cheap synthale and desperation. The broker, a squat, multi-limbed alien with too many eyes, eyed Chris's new form with suspicion. Chris leaned in, his voice a low rumble, blending into the background hum of illicit transactions. He spoke of untraceable credits, of discrete data transfers, using a patois of black market economics that would have been alien even to most humans. He walked away with a small yet sufficient amount of untraceable currency, having leveraged a whispered threat and an implied promise of future, more lucrative, dealings. Karina observed Chris's comfort, his almost predatory effectiveness in these illogical spaces. His mind, usually a warm, steady presence, now pulsed with a sharp, calculating energy. She had always understood human adaptability in theory, but to witness it in this raw, instinctive form, navigating the murky waters of subterfuge and petty crime, was to glimpse a side of sentience her species had never conceived. Her logical frameworks struggled to contain the sheer, unpredictable brilliance of it, but the continuous exertion of her psychic dampening field, combined with the constant vigilance of their escape, was taking its toll. A faint tremor rippled through their mental link, a spike of fatigue from Karina, a brief flicker in the placid contentment she projected. The strain was evident. They found him in a rundown docking bay at the target spaceport, a patch of rust and spilled hydrofuel nestled among the gleaming, efficient Prylorian berths. The small independent freighter, the Stardust Drifter, looked like it was held together by sheer stubbornness. Its captain, a gruff, multi-limbed alien named Cathar, with leathery hide and too many mandibles, was polishing a rusty plating with a worn rag. "You two," Cathar rumbled, his voice like gravel grinding stone. "Heard about you. High Council put a bounty on your crystalline heads, galactic-wide. Your credits are no good here, even if they were enough." He gestured with a clawed hand to the exorbitant sum Chris had mentally projected. "Not worth the risk?" Chris stepped forward, his new body's subtle shimmer catching the grime-filtered light. His mental presence, usually warm, hardened into something sharp and precise. He didn't raise his voice, but a primal, human edge entered his thoughts, projecting directly into Cathar's mind. "Bounties are for those who get caught. The Council's reach is long, but their pockets aren't bottomless. You're a free trader, Captain. You value coin and independence. We offer more of both. Or you could take the bounty and wonder if the Council's gratitude will protect you from those who don't appreciate betrayal." His gaze, steady and unflinching, held Cathar's multiple eyes, the implicit threat a quiet hum beneath the words. Karina, through their link, felt Chris's subtle manipulation, his understanding of Cathar's true motivations, a deep-seated contempt for authority masked by a greedy pragmatism. She focused her own telepathic energy, reinforcing Chris's arguments, weaving her logical appeal into his raw, human intimidation. "The Council's authority is temporary, Captain. Our gratitude and our resources are not. Consider the future profits of an alliance with a newly emergent power, unburdened by archaic dogma. Consider the satisfaction of defying those who would oppress you. The price we offer is merely a down payment on a far greater return. Cathar's mandibles clicked, a sound of grudging capitulation. Fine, he spat, the word a reluctant concession. But the price just doubled, and we leave in a high-risk window, just before the Prilorian fleet inspection. If you're not here, I leave without you. Don't blame me if you get caught. Chris and Karina settled into a cramped, hidden compartment deep within the Stardust Drifter's belly. The space was tight, smelling of lubricants, stale rations, and the faint, acrid scent of alien exhaust. The constant mechanical hum of the ship's engines was a stark contrast to the vast, silent psychic refuge they usually shared, a physical reminder of their precarious situation. After a long moment, Karina's thoughts, clear despite the surrounding noise, reached him. Your methods, Chris, your chaotic brilliance. I confess I underestimated the efficacy of such illogical approaches. You adapted, you improvised, you manipulated. It was exhilarating to witness. Her internal landscape rippled with a new, vibrant warmth, a profound admiration. Chris leaned back against the rough metal bulkhead, the vibration of the engines a steady thrum through his hybrid body. And your adaptation, Karina, he thought, his mental presence softening into tenderness. Your strength, your willingness to push past every limit your people taught you, to project deceit, to embrace calculated risk. You're growing into something extraordinary. Our link, it's becoming more than just a connection. It's a symbiotic strength. He felt her presence expand within him, a tender affirmation of their shared vulnerability, an undeniable deepening of their intimacy. A sudden klaxon blared through the ship. Cathar's gruff voice, distorted by the ship's internal comms, cut through the noise. Prilorian patrol craft detected closing on the spaceport. Looks like the Council decided to speed up their inspection. Brace for liftoff, you two. This is going to be a tight one. The hum of the engines intensified, a desperate, rising roar. Cathar slammed the throttle forward. The freighter shrieked, metal groaning in protest as emergency thrusters ignited, tearing the vessel from its docking clamps with a violent, spine-jarring lurch. Grav plates screamed, fighting the sudden acceleration, throwing Karina against the padded command seat. Outside, beyond the reinforced viewport, the vibrant spaceport lights blurred into streaks of frantic red and blue as Prilorian patrol craft, a dozen crystalline predators, opened fire. Plasma bolts lanced through the void, detonating against the freighter's hastily raised shields. Chris's presence flared within Karina's mind, a supernova of data processing. Hard right. Use the maintenance spire as cover. Power to forward shields. 20% to aft. His commands were a torrent, a perfectly articulated combat symphony. Karina's vision, already fragmented by the chaos, became a dizzying kaleidoscope of tactical overlays she barely comprehended. She felt the psychic strain of his military-trained mind, a raw, aggressive efficiency that threatened to shatter her own crystalline composure. Every sensor reading, every patrol vector, every structural weakness in the crowded spaceport environment flowed through her, filtered and weaponized by his intellect. It was an overwhelming, terrifying experience. A plasma bolt, hotter and brighter than the others, detonated against their starboard shield. The compartment lights flickered, plunged into a momentary darkness, then surged back with a sputtering whine. A low, ominous hum vibrated through the deck plates, growing louder, more erratic. Chris's mental voice spiked with urgency. Conduit failure. Section Gamma 7, aft shield generator. You need to reinforce the power flow now, or they'll see us. Karina gasped, her own internal energy pathways flaring in response to his psychic demand. She closed her eyes, focusing her entire being inward, reaching for the ship's crystalline structure, for the delicate lattice of its power conduits. Guided by Chris's precise, rapid-fire mental schematics, she visualized the failing junction, felt the frantic energy sputtering within. With a desperate mental push, she shunted power, rerouting the current through a reinforced sub-channel, stabilizing the compromised section just as the humming peaked. The lights steadied, the ominous whine fading back into the ship's general thrum. Cathar, a silent, grim presence on the bridge, twisted the controls with an alien grace. The freighter screamed, not from damage, but from the raw power of its engines as it executed a desperate, uncalculated jump. The stars outside the viewport elongated into searing streaks of light, then snapped back into a vortex of impossible colors as they tore through a narrow window of opportunity, vanishing into the silent maw of hyperspace just before the Prelorian patrols could lock on. The ship shuddered violently, a final, bone-deep tremor that rattled every plate and strut, then settled into the silent, vibrating hum of FTL travel. The immediate threat of capture was gone. In the cramped, hidden compartment, the adrenaline that had fueled Karina's frantic actions dissipated like smoke, leaving behind a profound exhaustion. The heavy silence of deep space enveloped them, broken only by the rhythmic thrum of the warp drive. Karina collapsed against the bulkhead, her slender body trembling from the physical and psychic exertion. Her crystalline skin felt cool, almost numb, but her mind still reeled from the sheer, terrifying efficacy of Chris's tactical brilliance. He had commanded her species' technology, her own innate abilities, with an instinctual understanding that few Prelorian engineers could match. Chris projected waves of calming reassurance through their link, a gentle warmth that soothed the raw edges of her frayed nerves. "You did it, Karina. You were incredible. I've never seen such adaptability, such bravery under fire." His mental praise was a potent balm, sinking deep into her core. The shared experience of extreme danger, of facing absolute annihilation and miraculously escaping, irrevocably deepened their emotional and psychic connection. Any lingering reservations Karina held, any logical arguments against the irrational bond, dissolved in the face of such profound, life-saving synergy. With a conscious act of will, Karina reached out with her telepathic essence, a delicate tendril of thought unfurling and expanding. She opened herself completely, not just to his presence, but to his very core, inviting Chris to fully integrate into her consciousness, to become one with the crystal lattice of her mind. Chris responded, his echo flowing into her, merging with her own essence. It wasn't just a connection. It was an unprecedented, profoundly intertwined psychic singularity. His warmth, his raw human emotion, swirled into her cool, logical depths, creating a new singular entity within the vast, silent cathedral of the Prylorian network. In this merged state, they experienced a shared cascade of pivotal memories and desires. Chris's longing for a home he thought lost, a sun-drenched planet of chaotic life and fierce loyalty, flooded her. Karina's yearning for connection beyond logic, for an emotional resonance that transcended the sterile beauty of her crystalline cities, echoed through him. They were two halves, finally made whole. Overwhelmed by the depth of their combined emotions, the fierce, undeniable realization of their profound, impossible bond, Karina leaned forward. Her organic hand, a delicate lavender-skinned thing of beauty, pressed against her own chest, a silent, physical kiss to the essence of Chris within her, to the human heart beating, alive, within her own crystalline form. A unique, powerful psychic resonance emanated from this act, a shimmering wave of pure, crystalline warmth that solidified their romantic bond, infusing their merged consciousness with a sense of completeness and belonging that neither had known before. As the resonance faded, they remained mentally entwined, no longer two distinct presences, but a single, complex consciousness. They recognized with startling clarity that their union transcended species. It had irrevocably redefined both their individual identities, forging something entirely new. Karina understood, with a certainty that resonated through every facet of her being, that a return to her old life, to the strictures and cold logic of the Prylorian High Council, was now an impossibility. Their shared connection was permanent, undeniable, and too profound to ever be hidden again. The stolen freighter hummed a low, steady thrum beneath them, its FTL drives warping space into streaking tunnels of distorted starlight. Within Karina's crystalline form, Chris experienced the journey as a profound, integrated quiet. His consciousness now a warm, golden presence woven into her intricate network. Shared memories flowed like rivers his sun-drenched earth, the stark discipline of Terran Alliance boot camp, the comrades he'd lost, her crystalline cities, the cool logic of Prylorian science, the vast silent archives of her people. Their perspectives, once alien, now merge, forming a single unified lens through which to process the boundless expanse of the galaxy. Their strategic situation unfolded in Karina's mind as a complex, multi-layered schematic, instantly comprehensible to Chris. They were fugitives, hunted by the very high council Karina had once served, their unique bond deemed an abomination. The Vex Syndicate, ruthless and relentless, undoubtedly pursued them too, their sensors scouring the void for the stolen freighter and its valuable cargo, the Prelorians, who had escaped their grasp. Resources were dwindling, the ship's stores finite, a stark reminder of their isolation. Karina's core logic, once so rigid, now wrestled with a profound emotional truth. The High Council would see their merged consciousness not as a miracle, but a sacrilege, demanding an immediate, brutal severance. Chris felt the cold, hard edges of that Prylorian dogma through her, but beneath it, a new fire burned. Her persistence, fueled by the warmth of his presence, hardened. She would defy them. This shared existence, this profound connection, was not a contamination. It was her very being. Through their shared mind, Chris delved into Karina's vast encyclopedic knowledge of Prylorian technology, ship schematics, and astrophysics. He overlaid his human military training, his pragmatic, often brutal logic honed by years of war, onto her precise, theoretical understanding. A multifaceted survival plan began to coalesce, integrating human ingenuity with alien tech. He saw how to repurpose a sensor array into a short-range comm jammer, how to vent plasma conduits for a temporary burst of evasive thrust, how to exploit obscure FTL lanes known only in ancient Prylorian navigational archives. From the freighter's bridge, Cathar, their stoic Prylorian pilot, shifted in his command chair. He sensed the subtle change in Karina. Her telepathic aura, once a cool, measured stream of thought, now shimmered with an unfamiliar, vibrant warmth, a complex resonance that spoke of two minds intertwined. His crystalline sensors, attuned to the network, confirmed his growing suspicion. The human echo, the one they believed lost, was not only still present, but deeply integrated. There is no severance possible, Karina projected, her thought clear and resonant, amplified by Chris's presence. Her words were accompanied by a flood of sensation. Chris's memories of Earth, his final act of warmth on Christo 7, the profound interwoven tapestry of their merged consciousness. We are one. Our plan is this. The shared message, a torrent of data and raw emotion, flooded Cathar's mind, their precarious position, the Vex pursuit, their destination, and the audacious hope for Chris's rebirth. Cathar's crystalline face remained impassive, but Chris felt the deep internal tremor, the clash between generations of strict Prylorian dogma and the fierce, unyielding loyalty Cathar held for Karina, his scion. The weight of his oath, his duty, pressed against his affection for the young xenobotanist. He took a long, shuddering breath, a soundless internal process. This is unprecedented, Cathar finally projected, the word imbued with a reluctant acceptance, but logical. My aid remains pledged. With Cathar's grudging support, Chris and Karina focused their merged intellect. Karina's memory banks were a treasure trove, and Chris, through her, began to sift through countless entries of decommissioned facilities, forgotten outposts, and abandoned research stations. Then a flicker, a facility listed as PX-9, a deep space biofoundry project, abandoned centuries ago due to resource reallocation, but containing advanced genetic reconstruction capabilities. A singular, desperate hope ignited between them. They plotted a perilous course. Ancient FTL lanes, long abandoned and riddled with unpredictable gravitic anomalies, became their highway. They would skirt the edges of asteroid fields dense enough to mask their energy signatures from both Prylorian patrols and Vex tracking arrays. Every jump was a gamble, every course correction a testament to their combined navigational prowess. During the journey, their minds delved into the intricacies of genetic engineering. Karina's encyclopedic knowledge of cellular structures, protein folding, and biofabrication combined with Chris's intuitive understanding of biological resilience and systemic function. They collaboratively refined the genetic blueprint for Chris's new body, meticulously integrating human DNA sequences with the unique crystalline biology of the Prelorians. It was an intimate dance of thought, a melding of two species at the most fundamental level, creating something entirely new. Finally, the desolate, ancient research station emerged from the void, a skeletal structure of crystalline spires and aged metal, bathed in the distant, icy light of a nameless star. Its dormant systems broadcast a profound quiet, its access points locked by complex, ancient security protocols. It was a tomb of forgotten science presenting a new formidable challenge. Chris's human engineering intuition, a pragmatic knack for finding the path of least resistance, combined with Karina's intimate knowledge of Prelorian systems, their logical progressions, their predictable vulnerabilities allowed them to navigate the labyrinthine security. He saw the elegant simplicity in the ancient, interlocking algorithms. She understood the archaic command structures. Together, they bypassed each layer, the station's silence gradually replaced by the subtle hiss of ancient airlocks, depressurizing, the faint thrum of reactivating power conduits. Deep within the station's core, they found it, the immense biofoundry. Its dormant mechanisms, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow, began to whir to life at their command. Luminescent fields coalesced, energy conduits pulsed, a testament to ancient Prylorian technological prowess, now resurrected for a purpose far grander than its original design. This is not contamination, Karina projected with unwavering conviction, her thought a clear, ringing bell within their merged consciousness. This is evolution. Her defiance of the High Council's rigid dogma was absolute. Her belief in their shared future solidified. With a shared mental command, a single unified spark of will, they initiated the construction sequence. Within the biofoundry chamber, energy matrices began to coalesce, forming intricate, shimmering patterns in the air. The first fragile outlines of what would become Chris's new body. His rebirth had begun. Then a jolt. Cathar's thought, sharp with alarm, pierced their focus. Faint energy signatures, distant but converging. The cold knot of dread tightened. Renewed interest from either Prelorian or Vex forces, drawn by the freighter's residual trail, or perhaps the sudden, massive power surge from the station's reactivation. The pressure mounted, a heavy weight pressing down on them. The biofoundry continued its delicate, agonizingly slow process, building a new life, atom by crystalline atom. They were racing against a rapidly closing window of opportunity, the distant, approaching threat a terrifying, relentless clock. The immense biofoundry hummed with reawakened energy, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through the station's ancient superstructure. Its central chamber, a crystalline cocoon of light and swirling fields, initiated the complex, multi-stage construction of Chris's new, hybrid body. Chris and Karina, through their merged consciousness, intimately perceived the biofoundry's intricate processes. They experienced the synthesis at a molecular level, the delicate dance of human genetics and Prylorian crystalline biology, a symphony of creation unfolding within their shared mind. Initial energy matrices coalesced, forming a nascent, shimmering, crystalline skeletal structure that gradually integrated with bioengineered organic scaffolding. Karina, guided by Chris's biological parameters, his very essence imprinting its requirements onto her, directed the precise layering of synthetic muscle fibers, nerve pathways, and circulatory systems around the crystalline core. Each pulse of the foundry echoed in their shared awareness, a living blueprint coming to life. Then Cathar's alarm pierced their focus, a sharp jolt through their bond. Vex warship, multiple escorts, entering system now. His mental projection of the incoming fleet was a stark, brutal contrast to the delicate work they oversaw. Chris immediately took point in their joint consciousness, his military mind snapping into high gear. He mentally mapped the station's ancient, dormant defenses, identifying critical choke points and vulnerabilities, his tactical instincts overriding the serene process of his own rebirth. Karina, acting on Chris's urgent tactical directives, moved with a fluid grace, her slender fingers a blur across a console. She expertly bypassed multiple security layers, activating the station's long-dormant point defense turrets and energy shields. A faint, low hum from the station's outer shell confirmed their agonizingly slow boot-up. The Vex fleet dropped out of FTL directly above the research station, a swarm of obsidian ships against the distant stars. They launched a concentrated barrage of plasma fire, a rain of searing green energy, and deployed numerous drop ships that streaked toward the surface like angry hornets. The reactivated station shields flickered under the VVEX assault, a fragile barrier of light against overwhelming force. The aged point defense turrets engaged valiantly, spitting out antiquated energy bolts that vanished harmlessly against the enemy's reinforced hulls, struggling against the sheer numbers. Main energy conduit is failing on the starboard shield, Karina sent, a jolt of panic in her crystal-clear thoughts. Chris, through Karina, quickly identified the Vex's primary breach points. Reroute auxiliary power from life support, Section Gamma. Reinforce critical shield sectors. Now, he orchestrated a desperate defense, pushing the station's ancient systems to their absolute limits. Below, Cathar bravely engaged the Vex escort ships with the stolen freighter, a tiny defiant speck against the massive cruisers. He wove through their attack patterns, drawing significant fire and disrupting their coordinated assault, buying precious, fleeting moments. But it wasn't enough. Vex ground forces successfully breached the station's outer perimeter, their heavy boots thudding against metal as they poured into the corridors. Assault teams deployed, neutralizing automated security drones with brutal efficiency, advancing relentlessly towards the core facilities. The biofoundry chamber is directly threatened, Chris realized, a cold spike of dread piercing his re-emerging consciousness. The urgency of his rebirth in the station's defense became one and the same. I know. Karina's response was sharp, desperate. She initiated a dangerous, high-risk power surge through the station's auxiliary conduits, a gambit of pure desperation. Blue-white energy flared through the station's inner walls, temporarily overloading several Vex breaching points and repelling enemy borders with a crackling wave of raw power. For a moment, the Vex faltered. Despite the intense external conflict, the biofoundry continued its work, oblivious to the chaos. The new body's external features rapidly developed, now showing distinct human contours: the curve of a shoulder, the smooth line of an arm, a hand taking shape, all imbued with a subtle, almost imperceptible crystalline sheen beneath what would soon be skin. The Vex commander, facing unexpected resistance and the unpredictable power surges from Karina's high-stakes endeavor, ordered a tactical retreat of ground forces and withdrew the main fleet to regroup. The plasma fire ceased, the dropships turned, and a tense silence descended, broken only by the station's groaning systems. Karina and Cathar assessed the heavy damage to the station's defenses, their merged thoughts confirming what their instruments screamed. Critical systems were severely strained. The Vex would undoubtedly return, and next time, they would bring reinforced numbers. Chris and Karina observed the biofoundry, where the final external layers of his hybrid body were almost complete. The chamber pulsed with a final, intense burst of light, signaling his imminent awakening. Then Cathar's frantic thought image slammed into their merged consciousness. He had intercepted a cryptic Vex message, a coded burst of data. It revealed they'd transmitted coordinates and requested heavy reinforcements from a nearby Vex battle group. A much larger threat, an entire armada, was now en route. The biofoundry's containment field retracted with a hiss, the shimmering blue energy collapsing inward, revealing Chris's fully synthesized hybrid body resting within the chamber. His consciousness flooded with a torrent of physical sensations, a deluge after the quiet of the telepathic network. The cool, crisp air of the chamber brushed against his new semi-crystalline skin, sending shivers through unfamiliar nerves. Beneath his ribs, a constant, subtle thrum vibrated, a low, resonant hum of internal energy that felt both alien and profoundly right. His limbs, heavy and strange, acknowledged gravity with a novel weight. his eyes now possessing a subtle, iridescent shimmer that caught the ambient light, snapped open. Across the chamber, Karina's gaze met his, their telepathic bond vibrating with shared relief and an almost childlike wonder. A silent wave of "you are here" washed between them. Breaking from rigid Prylorian custom, Karina rushed to his side, her slender hand, cool and smooth, offering a steadying anchor as Chris pushed himself upright. His new form was a marvel of bioengineering, a fusion of flesh and crystal, but he was a newborn in it. His first deliberate steps were hesitant, awkward, the muscles and sinews protesting the unfamiliar commands. Then, a primal spark of his human will asserted control. Coordination flooded his hybrid physiology, an instinctual mastery overriding the strangeness. Each subsequent step became firmer, more fluid, a dance of newfound power. Even as he found his footing, his mind, newly anchored in a physical form yet still profoundly linked, telepathically sensed the station's extensive damage. Through Karina's raw apprehension, he felt the immense growing pressure of the approaching Vex fleet, a cold dread echoing through their shared consciousness. Just then, Cathar burst into the biofoundry, his face etched with grim urgency. "The Vex," he stated, his voice tight. "They're here, a full battle group, far larger and more heavily armed than the last assault." Chris's military mind instantly engaged. Telepathically, he drew complex station schematics and Vex fleet dispositions from Karina's memory, processing the data with impossible speed. The internal hum of his crystalline lattice heightened, almost singing with the influx of information. He understood the profound changes in his body now, an inherent regenerative capacity, a latent superhuman strength humming in his muscles, enhanced senses that sharpened the distant thrum of Vex engines. Karina, operating with unparalleled synchronicity, moved to a console. Her fingers danced across the controls, remotely activating dormant defensive systems, deploying experimental energy baffles at Chris's precise, rapid-fire tactical direction. Their minds moved as one, a symphony of command and execution. Then the station shuddered. A devastating, synchronized orbital bombardment tore through the void, easily shattering the weakened outer defenses. Plasma fire rained down, washing the observation ports in angry red light. Vex assault teams breached the biofoundry's exterior, deploying heavily armed ground forces directly into the facility. Their heavy boots thudded on the crystalline decks, rapidly advancing towards Chris and Karina's position. Chris moved. No longer hesitant, his steps were a fluid, preternatural grace. He engaged the Vex borders, his hybrid body deflecting energy blasts with the subtle shimmer of his skin. He disarmed soldiers with brutal, non-lethal efficiency, a blur of motion and crystalline strength. Karina, leveraging their amplified bond, manifested localized telekinetic force fields, shimmering walls of unseen energy that blocked corridors. She hurled large debris, shattered consoles, collapsed structural beams, creating strategic choke points and disabling Vex weapons with precision. Their combined combat, an unprecedented fusion of human tactical ingenuity and Prylorian psionic ability, repelled the immediate Vex incursion from the station's vital core. The Vex, disoriented by the unexpected, coordinated resistance, fell back. After the Vex retreated to regroup, Chris and Karina quickly assessed the station's critical structural integrity. The primary systems groaned under the strain. It wouldn't withstand another full-scale assault. Chris articulated a bold plan, his voice resonating with a new, deeper timbre. "We abandoned the station. We utilized the captured Vex freighter's FTL drive. We reached the Prylorian homeworld directly." Karina's mind flickered with profound apprehension. The High Council, your existence, our bond, the unspoken fear of her people's rigid logic, their isolationist dogma, was a cold tremor through their link. Chris met her gaze, his iridescent eyes firm. "We face the Council together, Karina. Our unique union isn't just about us. It represents the Prylorian Imperium's only hope for survival and evolution." The captured Vex freighter, a scarred, blocky silhouette against the brilliant diamond dust of the Prylorian starfield, sliced through the upper atmosphere of Xylos Prime. Its unauthorized entry triggered a cascade of crimson security alerts across the capital world, painting the towering crystalline spires with a frantic, pulsing glow. Public confusion rippled through the telepathic network like a stone dropped into still water, a Vex vessel, approaching the sacred heart of the Imperium. It was an outrage, an impossibility. Yet within moments of its descent onto a designated landing platform, Chris and Karina, flanked by a small honor guard of bewildered Prelorian security, were escorted through shimmering corridors. They moved toward the ancient, crystalline High Council chamber. The vast assembly of Prelorian elders awaited, their faceted forms arrayed in a silent, expectant arc. Their collective mental presence, usually a calm, resonant hum, now throbbed with a mixture of grave suspicion and an almost painful intensity of scientific curiosity. Karina stepped forward, her new crystalline organic form radiating a subtle inner light. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, resonated with an authority even she hadn't possessed before Christo 7. Elders, she began, the word a formal accusation. For cycles, your rigid dogma has blinded us, forcing isolation upon a species that could offer so much. I present to you the embodiment of our species' future, not its contamination. She gestured to Chris, who stood beside her, his hybrid body a breathtaking mosaic of human strength and Prelorian elegance, subtly humming with life. Chris took a deliberate step, the polished facets of his skin catching the chamber's light. A faint, almost imperceptible warmth emanated from him, a stark contrast to the cool, ambient temperature. His voice, steady and clear, filled the chamber. My name is Chris Jones. I died on Christo 7, freezing in the snow, a human soldier at the end of his fight. But through Karina's compassion and the innate wonder of your species, I was given a second chance. My consciousness, an echo of a life, was drawn into your telepathic network, saved from oblivion. He detailed the desperate sacrifice, the fading heat, the unexpected awakening within their collective mind. As he spoke, Karina raised a hand. Irrefutable scientific data, projected onto the chamber's crystalline walls, flared to life. Intricate diagrams of cellular structures, thermal signatures, and energy resonance patterns pulsed with irrefutable proof. Observe, counselors, she commanded, her voice firm. Human biothermic energy, specifically the unique frequency of Corporal Jones's dying warmth, did not merely provide heat, it triggered rapid cellular repair and enhanced growth in our crystalline structures. It is a catalyst for regeneration, a profound healing resonance. To demonstrate, Chris extended a hand. A small, almost imperceptible fissure opened along his forearm. A self-inflicted micro-trauma. Before the council could react, a faint, golden light pulsed beneath his crystalline skin, and the fissure knitted itself closed, leaving no trace. He then focused, and the council felt a whisper of his consciousness, a warm current flowing through their network, merging his senses with Karina's, allowing them to perceive the chamber through their shared sight, hearing in the subtle, unique flavor of his own experience. He was a living node, connected. This is not mere survival, Chris continued, his voice gaining power. This is evolution, and the Vex Syndicate, whose freighter brought us here, seeks to deny you that. We learned their full plans, a galactic conquest, fueled by enslavement and technological appropriation. Their assault on Christo 7 was just one step. As the Ghost Commander, I directed your scientists, turning a desperate defense into a tactical victory against their elite forces. Their arrogance blinds them to true strength. A profound silence descended upon the High Council. Their collective telepathic deliberation, usually a smooth unified current, now churned with visible turbulence. The crystalline patterns on their robes shimmered with agitated light, reflecting the fracturing of long-held rigid beliefs. Dogma clashed with undeniable evidence. Logic wrestled with the impossible, and fear of the unknown battled the existential threat of the Vex. The chamber hummed with their internal struggle. Finally, an ancient elder, whose crystalline form was almost entirely translucent, rose. Its voice, a deep, resonant chime that vibrated through the chamber, cut through the psychic din. We have been blind, it declared, its words echoing with newfound humility. Our isolationism, born of fear, nearly led to our extinction. Human compassion, expressed in the ultimate sacrifice, has shown us a path forward. The Prilorian Imperium formally ends its long-standing isolationism and declares a full, unconditional alliance with the Terran Alliance. Humanity is our salvation. A secure, real-time deep space communication channel flared to life on the central projection. The stern, bewildered faces of the Terran Alliance High Command appeared, their relief and gratitude at Chris's survival and the impossible new alliance profoundly evident. Admiral Vance, his grizzled face etched with disbelief, simply nodded, a silent acknowledgement of the impossible. Before the assembled council, amidst the silent, awestruck high command, Chris and Karina turned to each other. Their eyes, one human warm and the other multifaceted, cool, met. A profound telepathic charge, a silent symphony of shared memories, sacrifice, and burgeoning love, resonated between them. A deep, resonant hum that touched every Prelorian present. Their physical and psychic bond, unbreakable and undeniable, was explicitly affirmed as the very foundation of this new interspecies partnership. Karina, now a true leader, addressed both councils. This alliance is more than a treaty. It is a new era. We propose a future where human adaptability, creativity, and strategic brilliance merge with Prilorian technological prowess and collective intelligence. Together, we will resist the Vex threat, not as two separate species, but as a unified force for galactic peace. Later, on a newly vibrant Prelorian balcony, bathed in the gentle warmth of Xylos Prime's twin suns, Chris and Karina stood side by side. His hybrid form, subtly shifting with an inner light, complemented her elegant crystalline structure. Their interwoven destinies, the soldier who gave his last warmth and the scientist who embraced the impossible, shone as a beacon. They symbolized not merely an alliance, but the dawn of a truly unified galaxy, where the most profound connections were forged in fire and the greatest strength was found in shared compassion.